Your family can make an impact for Christ through sports, but it won't happen by accident. Join us as we talk about this today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Amy Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob and Amy Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. We're here to help your family follow Jesus every day.
It is springtime, and at the Rienow home, springtime means baseball season. Now, it feels like a lighter spring for me because we only have 2 baseball seasons happening, and Rob is coaching the Park District team, our youngest child's team. So, the younger the child, Park District, less commitment than, the impact teams. But we have had seasons where there have been 4 boys playing baseball. RW at the college level, JD at the high school level, Ray at upper elementary, and Rush at the T-ball level. Those were some highlight years of baseball. And thankfully, my daughter doesn't have a spring sport that does help. We had a year when Millie was doing softball too.
Right. She
that was in the
retired
mix of that. That was only one season. We had 4 baseball and 1 softball. So that was like a round.
She accomplished all she came to do in the sport and was ready to go out on top.
Sure. So, so we are in the middle of it right now. So.
Yep, and there's different seasons, sports seasons in our family. We've got basketball in the winter and fall. We've had some flag football and then tennis. Millie is our first sport-playing girl. Lainey and Lissy did dance and lots of activities, but Millie has been more into the organized sports. And Millie is a sophomore in high school, so she's got 2 tennis seasons behind her. Now, I played tennis in high school, enjoyed it, so I'm really enjoying having a kid playing tennis, but I had to learn how to watch tennis. And apparently this was not a skill I had. So Millie's freshman season playing JV tennis, very proud of her. And so she's out there, okay, and she's playing doubles. And they hit the ball back and forth a few times. And the other girls, the opponent, let's say they hit the ball into the net. And I applaud because my daughter's team and her partner, we won the point.
Right.
Which seems very natural to me. So this continues.
Okay, let's not just, it wasn't like you usually say something, you're like, go, Mel. It's not just this little clap.
Let's go, girls. Way to go, Wah.
Yeah, they're a little more vocalization.
Okay, I accept that. So some appropriate tennis cheering, but I start to get these like snide looks. I'm getting snide looks from other parents. I'm getting snide looks. Sometimes a player on the court looked over at me. What are you doing? Yeah. Finally, then one of Millie's coaches had to come over and explain to me that in tennis, you can't cheer if the opponent makes a mistake, like they made a unforced error or a double fault. If your daughter hits a winner or an ace, then you can cheer.
Yes, but even then, how you cheer, it's not supposed to be very vocal. You're not supposed to call out the kid's name. It's very
I'm not calling out the opponent's name.
No, I mean even your daughter's name. You're supposed to be, it's a sensitive cheering situation. But let's be honest, we've had some marriage problems at the tennis watching experience.
I'm just saying,
because I typically have had to
move away because
it's not just, it was a repeated visit from the coach over the season. Never a coach had to come.
It only took me 1 season to figure this out.
Sort of. Did you know no coach talk to you this week?
No.
Season? Are you sure about that?
I've top grades this season.
I'm
Absolutely.
not so sure about
Honey,
that. I still sit at a distance.
I was so beaten into submission by the first season. But it just makes no sense. Like if you're at a basketball game and the bad guys, the other team shoots an air ball.
This is such a sensitive issue to talk on the podcast.
The whole crowd, what do they do? Air ball,
but it
isn't
basketball.
And
that's the whole point.
It's not a shame-based system. It's just, all right, all that to say, what I'm trying to say is that I'm learning how to watch tennis.
You're trying to lead up to the point that our behavior, even as we watch our kids' sports, is part of our testimony in this area of ministering to families.
That is the theme of our show, and we ought to transition there. So we talk about sports, right, as Christian families, as an opportunity to make a difference for Christ, right, in the lives of other families. But sometimes that's all it is. Like we say it, We believe it. We want it to be true. But what we want to talk about today is what does that look like in real life? It's a mindset. I think it starts with a mindset that this activity that our child is participating in is giving us an opportunity to be in the lives of other families that we would not normally be connected with. It's giving our kids an opportunity, hours with other boys and girls they might not ever connect with if it wasn't for this skill or this interest that God has given them. So we want to ask the question, what would it look like to take some baby steps, little tiny baby steps of intentionality that God might use us as a light for Christ with these other players and their families?
Right, because I think it is one thing to say that we want to have an impact in our communities, whether it be through sports or whatever activities our family is. Like we do want an impact. We talked last one about being a light and, how can we be a light? But we have to say more than just say that
Correct.
We're being a light. We actually have to think about our behavior, our words, how we're acting. And one famous story in the Rienow home was that I was really convicted, with that kind of difference in thinking, in the sense that when our W was in those early ages of playing baseball, our first questions, always, if we weren't at his game, because we had so many little kids, he definitely went to a lot of games with his neighbors and friends, which was just totally fine. But we'd ask him, how was your game? And then the next one, did you get any hits? Did you have any plays in the field? Those were the questions. So when I asked him how the game went, it was directly related to his performance at the game, which was doing a couple negative things. One, that's putting extra pressure on your kid, which is never a good thing, as opposed to, did you have fun? Did you have, you know what I mean? Those are good questions. How did your team play together, as opposed to making it too focused on the performance. But I was convicted about this. So when I was driving R.W. and his friend Weston to the next game, I really tried to apply some of these principles in the car. And J.D., who was about 5 at the time, was listening to this conversation. So I said to the boys, okay, so we're going to play, how can we encourage our teammates today? I really want to, when we're done with the game, I'm going to ask you, how did you encourage your teammates today? What were some parts where maybe you saw someone struggling? What did you do? How were you part of kind of helping that kid if they struck out? I was really trying to get them thinking about who they were on that team made a difference. And also who they were on the team made a difference even for the other team, like a sportsmanship. You know what I mean? Whether you win or lose, are you going to be proud of how you acted, not necessarily how you performed, but what your behavior was. So had this great conversation, prayed with the 2 boys. Weston is the son of my good friend, Marianne. We're on the same page, having this kind of discipleship conversation on the way to the game. And, I felt really, really good about it. And so we're sitting on the sidelines. And JD is playing with some other friends. And he comes over next to me and he goes, Mom, I know it's really important to be nice to your teammates and encourage your teammates and be a good, winner or loser. But I just want you to know, when I play T-ball, I'm going to crush them.
Attaboy.
I was just okay, well, okay, thank you. I appreciate that feedback from my really good spiritual conversation. I obviously, and there's nothing wrong with that healthy sense of competition, which JD had in spades, but it was just a classic.
That's so good.
I know.
Classic story.
But our kids, in going back to what you were saying at the beginning of just our kids, do need guidelines. They do need help as they enter into their sports seasons, especially at those younger ages. Really, the character piece is super, super important. And there are things that we can do, intentional things that we can do as parents to help our kids in this area. And it's actually not only helping their witness of who we are as a family when we say that we are Christ followers, that is very important, but actually it's also helping our kids, because you and I both know we live in this culture where this performance mentality is adding so much stress on something that should be about fun, especially at those early ages. And I'm saying early all the way up to 13, 14. You know what I mean? We are, when I sometimes say early ages to people, they think 5 or 6. Oh, no. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These kids need to be playing these sports because they're enjoying it and they're having fun. And when we stress that performance so much, it's adding a whole layer to them that is really not helpful. But one of the first things we can do for our kids is just simply helping them cheer for other kids on their team and be aware how other teams are, their other teammates are feeling, that they can make a point when a child strikes out to cheer for them, to be an encourager. In fact, what blesses me is that both of my boys, older boys, always received an encouragement award, being one of the best encouragers on their team. That is so, so important. So simply cheering for other kids is a great way to do something very intentional.
And also, as parents, cheering for kids
Yes.
other than your kid.
Right.
Just think about how I feel, right? If another parent shouts out, "Way to go, Ray," if he got a hit or hit or struck somebody out, I love that. I'm like, well, that made me feel good. Like it made me feel connected to the other parent.
Correct.
So don't just cheer for your own kid, cheer for the other kids on the team too.
Absolutely. And second, a very important thing, and we've already kind of talked about this with coaches, but your attitude toward the referee, toward the umpire, toward who's ever making the calls, you know what I mean? That you have a respectful attitude.
Honey, I totally agree with you on this. Absolutely critical to our Christian witness. I'm just saying it can be difficult for those of us who are more competitive. Part of it is that as a dad in the stands, and most of my life's been baseball, basketball, I have a better view of the play than the referee or the umpire.
You're trying to be funny.
Well, I feel like I have a better view from across the gym. I know he's standing right there, but he's distracted by all the other stuff going on.
I think you know that you're triggering me with these comments, and I don't know if you're trying to get this response
or
on
even
the podcast.
even with balls and strikes. I know the umpire's standing right back there, right? But I'm 100 feet away from the side.
People now know why we're so frequently not sitting together at our kids' sporting
because
events.
I have issues. And especially there could be another dad next to me who has this 20/20 crystal vision, and he and I
get in league with someone.
Oh, of course, that we agree that was just terrible. This is awful. And I do remember, and again, I'm asking the Lord to help me with this. In my old age, I'm moderating a little with God's help. But I think there was a basketball game where I was probably talking more than I should have. And one of the teachers from the school is coming around passing out these suckers, these lollipops. And in my mind, I thought, well, they're just passing out lollipops. That's fantastic. But I think it was a strategery that my mouth would be occupied with a treat rather than making comments. You know what's actually helping me is Ray, our 14-year-old, is now umpiring. So that's his part-time job. He umpires little kid baseball. And he can't drive. I have to drive him to the game. So I watch him play baseball and I watch him umpire baseball. And now with my kid right back behind the plate, I'm extra sensitive, right, to any kind of jawing that he gets from the coach or other parents. So the Lord is helping me.
A respectful attitude towards the referee, the calls is so important. And we all know the negatives, right, when that isn't there. In fact, even the other day, I had a dad say, they really should take the Christian out of the name of that school. I'm not going to say the school because of the behavior of the parents on the sidelines. Yeah. It was so negative that, it's worse than being neutral. It's giving a very bad name to Christianity when you have a Christian school with parents who are so disrespectful to the refs, the other kids, all of that. Right. All
right. So number one, cheering for another kid. Number two, respecting the referees. Number three, praying as a family for opportunities for deeper conversation. I'm thinking specifically of parents on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. We have lots of hours with folks maybe that we just met. We're going to be together game after game. And you don't need to force spiritual conversations or force even personal conversations. But if you would just pray on your way to a game, God, if there's a heart conversation, a spiritual conversation that you'd want me to have with someone, would you just open up that opportunity, make it clear? And if you open it up, I'll go through the door.
And also, some of our deepest friendships have come from the parents that we have met through our kids' sporting teams. And you never know what those opportunities will be, but we have developed very close friendships and I would say a bigger place in our communities through our involvement in these teams. But again, yes, friendships that would never have happened in my life unless our kids had played sports day together. And specifically JD's basketball team in high school, those were some of the prayer warriors in my life, and they all came through that those relationships on the basketball team.
Yep. And I want to go back to something you brought up a little while ago when you told that story with JD about having intentional conversations with our kids. We say we want faith and character through sports, but then oftentimes all we do is talk about the game. All we do is talk about the performance of what happened. And I've shared this story before on Family Vision, but it's a classic one. Our W was in college playing baseball, and he was in a batting slump, 3 or 4 games without a hit. And Dad was stressed, right? I'm anxious and I'm feeling stressed about his batting slump. So I'm on the phone with him before his game and I'm saying, hey, RW, I just want you to know I'm going to be praying for you today. I'm going to pray that God will give you peace when you walk up to the plate. You'll see the ball well. You'll barrel some up, that you'll get a couple hits tonight. And I'll never forget what RW said. He said, Dad, thanks for praying for my hits, but I'd rather you pray for my heart. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, good point, son. Very good visionary parenting there, because he was saying, look, I'm starting to feel embarrassed, and I don't know how long a slump's going to last. Baseball's a terrible game. Who knows what's going to happen? I need God to help my heart, not help my hits. It was just a great example to me of how I was getting sidetracked on having conversations focus too much or exclusively on performance and on the game.
Yeah, it's a driven culture out there, and most of the time you will talk to most of the time, coaches will say that parents need to be encouragers first and foremost and not so focused on their kids' performance. And again, it's really important that your kids are enjoying where they're at right now, enjoying what they're doing, not feeling pressure about it. And the way we behave as parents is a huge component of how much our kids will enjoy the activities they are doing.
Amen. So
we need to really stand against this culture where it's so much pressure, and honestly really try to, if these are things our kids want to do, use them for relationship building, character building. Hospitality is what you're talking about. Hospitality on the team, in the sense that you have a space where you get to meet so many people, and people want to be known, and they want that connection. In fact, a lot of people are putting their kids on sport teams to meet other people and to have that connection. So help us as parents to be our focus.
Yeah, amen. Well, Amy and I are here with you right now because we want to help your family follow Jesus every day. And we want to ask you to partner with us. Would you join with us in this mission? There's some simple things you could do right now. Maybe you've been listening to our conversation today, thinking about a friend. Oh, so-and-so would love this. Take 5 seconds, click the share button, pass it on to them, or even just hit subscribe on your side so that you don't miss future episodes of Family Vision. We want to thank Yair, our audio engineer with Gap Digital. And as always, we want to hear from you. Do you have some stories about sports and your family? I shared some maybe more negative ones today, but maybe you've got some like that are just funny, or maybe things that God is teaching you, or ways that God's used your family for ministry for Christ in the sports world. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, you can't end on a more negative one, because you have been a coach in this community and have had more of a positive impact on so many young men through your coaching and your involvement in the kids' sports, that you have definitely brought people to Christ through all that. So don't end on a negative note, dear.
Thanks, sweetheart. But we want to hear from you, positive, negative, and especially prayer requests for your family. Would you email those to us at podcast@visionaryfam.com? If you want to see and join us for a live Visionary Family event near you, go to our website, visionaryfam.com, click the events button, and we'd love to see you face to face. And we look forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.